Welcome back, Trinidad and Tobago. While we continue with the program, the Latin America and Caribbean section of the Society for Conservation Biology is joining with the University of the West Indies to host the inaugural Latin America and Caribbean Congress for Conservation Biology 2018. Joining us on set to tell us all about this, we have Dr. Luc Rostin, chair of the LACCCB 2018 conference. He's a lecturer and biodiversity conservation major and Sustainable Development in the Caribbean program and coordinator. We also have Dr. Nigel Noriega, director of the Sustainable Innovation Initiatives. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome.
Morning. Morning.
My first question, we were talking during the break, the concept of a science conference, how popular is it really here in Trinidad and Tobago? So let's get into it. What exactly is this conference all about?
Well, the Society for Conservation Biology has scientists from all over the world, roughly about 5,000 scientists plus. And every 2 years, they have their large conference. And in between those 2 years, the regional conferences take place. Now, the Latin America Caribbean region has never had a conference. And it's really important for us to get together and talk about, what new techniques are there to analyze and observe biodiversity and communicate with one another to introduce the students into the discipline of conservation biology and really broaden our horizons. One thing I think Nigel will agree with me is that having developed and put together this conference, it really has highlighted how few connections there are and how little we talk to one another within the Caribbean and within Latin America, and there's so much to learn. And this conference does give us that opportunity.
Wow. Yeah. So you spoke about the importance of a conference like this. How popular is conservation biology in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, popularity varies, and it depends on what people consider to be conservation biology.
Okay.
So, a conference like this helps the people who are interested in conservation biology network with the rest of the world. The point of this conference is really networking. The Society for Conservation Biology is the largest conservation biology network in the world. And they have sections in Asia, Africa, Europe, North America. Yet the Latin America and Caribbean section is the only section that hasn't had its own Congress yet. So that the significance of that is very high. And the opportunity to host that in Trinidad also states a lot for what we can do regionally. So, this is everybody from Canada to Argentina that we don't normally talk to, that we're trying to talk to now. So, we have several tiers of conservation biology activism in Trinidad. And, I think most of the general public is familiar with organizations like Papawa Conservation and so forth. And, we can see the effect that their raising awareness has had on empowering people, empowering decision making and so forth. Now we're trying to extend that kind of network to researchers in every aspect of the region. So we're sharing technology, we're sharing resources, and most importantly, we're sharing information. We're trying to avoid people getting stuck in silos where all they have is what's right around them and they can't see what's happening with their neighbors or coordinating, especially when we're talking about areas of conservation that don't pay attention to national borders or national politics or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. So who is invited to a conference like this? Who would benefit from something like this?
Well, I mean, the main people that we're targeting are, of course, conservation professionals. Okay. But it's open to the public. Anybody that would like to attend the conference, they're free to attend as well.
All right. And who are some of the featured speakers we can expect?
We have 3 plenary speakers, really exciting. Dr. Gerardo Ceballos, we have Dr. Howard Nelson, who's a son of the soil, and Dr. Diva Amon, who has done, I think maybe her work has probably been featured on this very station. She does a lot of deep sea exploration and so on. Very exciting, along with Dr. Judy Gobin, who is also at the University of the West Indies.
Great. And Dr. Noriega, you are the director of the Sustainable Innovation Initiatives. What exactly is that organization about?
This is a non-profit catalyst. So the goal of everything we do is to enable ecologically sustainable development and everything that entails. So that can involve documentaries, sharing knowledge, getting people who don't normally talk to each other, agriculture, talking to industry, talking to research biologists. We facilitate a lot of research. So we normally operate behind the scenes to help people get whatever they need to get done to make ecologically sustainable development happen. So this conference is a good example
Yes.
of getting together the largest conservation biology organization in the world with networks all throughout Latin America and the Caribbean and University of the West Indies and help them move forward into the next century.
So you essentially bridge that gap between all these various stakeholders.
That's right.
And how do you feel about the partnership with UE?
Excellent. You know, I think one of the things that I would like to see, even though this is, you know, we have global aims, I'm also Trinidadian, so I have aspirations for UE myself.
Okay.
And you know, I think there's always been this aspect of the potential that UE could fill. You know, not saying that they don't, but how much more could they do?
Yes.
And UE plays an important role in the region because, you know, UE gives access to a lot of our neighbors in North and South America, Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, to lots of conduits in the world. And the importance that the change of a nation can make compared to the change of a region, it says a lot about the kinds of paradigms that you set forward. So UE is in a position to turn a very large boat with a small steering wheel. And I feel that this collaboration helps them do that.
Yeah. On that note, I'd like to raise a topic that you spoke about during the break. You spoke about the concept of assigning value and how can we rethink our economy so that it's sustainable. How do we really begin to chart those waters?
So that's a complicated question that people have been trying to do for a lot of time. What I would say is more information is released in 1 year now, in 2018, than you would have in all of human society before 1900, before that. So we can think about the way we prioritize a value, things historically, the mistakes we would try not to repeat, or the things we want to improve on,
Right.
and think about how do we do that now when we literally have 1 million times more information per year than we did a few years before. So just as with anything, when you have a lot more of something, it might change the way you operate. And it can change the way you assign a value. You know, if you have 1 orange and that's all you've eaten for the year, it's very, very valuable. But the value changes when you have 25, right? So one way to reassign value is to be able to look more objectively at the flood of information that comes in.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that we try to help people do. We also have to look at the reasons why we do things the way we do right now. You know, we have an economy based on extraction, you know, holdovers from a time when, you know, you could land on a foreign shore and say, well, hey, look, this is ours for the taking. Let's get rid of the people who live here. And, you know, and now this land is yours and we have a deed and you've assigned, you know, and that was considered fair.
Yes.
Now the world is much more crowded.
Yes.
So that value system creates a lot of conflict, you know. So just the basic tenets that we use, the concept of ownership, the concept of who has a right to what, that depends on space, and that depends on how we share the resources that we have. So, you know, we may think our cell phones and so forth are very valuable, but it might not match up to the value of access to clean water, access to unpolluted air, access to the natural systems that make it possible for things to live.
Wow, so true. Now let's get back into the conference a bit. If you had to describe the structure of the conference, what can we expect?
So the conference runs over 3 days from the 25th to the 27th of July, so next week, Wednesday to Friday. But beyond that, we actually have some workshops continuing. There's a workshop on geographical information systems and its use in conservation biology. And there's also a workshop on sponge identification. People may not think much of sponges, but they are very important in the ecosystem. So during the main 3 days of the conference, we start with workshops on the Wednesday mainly, followed by our opening ceremony where our first plenary, Dr. Gerardo Ceballos will be speaking. And then we move into a lot of symposia and separate talks on the Thursday and the Friday. And if people want more information, of course, we would recommend that they go to the website and have a look at the very exciting sessions that we have planned. So the website is kind of difficult to remember in terms of the acronym, but I urge people to just write it down. It's LACCCB2018.org.
Wonderful. What are your closing comments? What would you like to add?
Well, I was just going to add to what Luke was talking about. The structure is information sharing and training. So, for example, there'll be a workshop on using the whale shark as a flagship species for making marine conservation areas in the Caribbean.
Okay.
And how this affects not only the Caribbean, but our neighbors in Central and South America and so forth. So there's that one extreme. There'll also be a workshop on the Orinoco Mining Arc. This is 110,000 square kilometers in Venezuela that's been open to unregulated mining on account of the economic crisis that affects our whole region right now. And very few people know about this. So this is very important because it's going to be one of the first scientific discussions in an English-speaking forum for this thing that is so widespread throughout our region. I think people can have an inherent understanding of how the complete economic collapse of such a near neighbor affects us.
Yes.
So I'm just, we have 13 workshops, 7 symposia. I'm just giving you an idea of the breadth that'll be covered.
Yeah,
in
definitely. So all this information will be on the website. So
Yes.
for further details, you can check it out, see what topics would be on which day and that sort of thing in terms of the workshop.
That's
Yeah?
correct, yes.
And
Wonderful.
If people just wanted to attend one day, they could
Yeah.
as well. If there's a particular workshop or symposium that they're more interested in.
Okay, great. So registration is open at this point in time.
Yes.
Yes.
Great,
Yes.
wonderful. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're most
Thank you for having
welcome.
us.
We take a short break. A lot more when we return. Stay tuned.